I'd like to bring out my panel. I'm Heather Clancy, the editorial director of GreenBiz. And we had a great setup first thing this morning. How many of you from the mainland or from other places had trouble convincing your families that you were really here for business? Right? But in all seriousness, Hawaii is absolutely a vibrant source of tourism, and it's clearly the huge economic driver of the state. And how do you make it more sustainable? This is not a panel about ecotourism, which is a whole nother topic, but really focusing on how you make this industry more sustainable over time. And clearly one of the most profound opportunities for this state at this time. We're on the precipice of a major opportunity. What I'd love to introduce the panelists here. We've got Jim Alberts. He is the Senior Vice President of Customer Service with Hawaiian Electric. Dean Nakasone is the VP of the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association. And Ernie Nishizaki is the Principal and Managing Member of Acumen Advisor, a lot of long-time perspective on tourism in the state. And what I would love to do is just, Ernie, you were sending me some great statistics before we came. 12 million annual air seats to Hawaii. That's a lot of people coming here. But I guess what here on the ground in Hawaii, where is the most opportunity? Where's the biggest opportunity to make a positive impact in this broad topic of sustainable tourism?
Yeah, I guess I kind of put it in a shell of being good news and bad news. As was mentioned this morning, we enjoy about 8.9 visitors to Hawaii.
Right.
That's the good news. The bad news is that these visitors use twice as much energy as our normal residents.
Right.
But I guess if you look at that, I think there's an opportunity there, because they're concentrating in various resort areas, to really focus our efforts in getting the energy usage in those areas reduced.
So hotels are the big place where you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the hotel industry is the low-hanging fruit, and the industry as a whole has made great strides. I think in fact, I know that electricity is the biggest consumer of the energy load, and that's what the hotels have gone after. And over the course of the years, there've been many programs that have been implemented, which has saved millions of dollars at the properties.
Can you give me an example of one? I mean,
yeah. Well, simple things like lighting. I mean, I don't want to date myself here, but from incandescent to fluorescent to LED. Part of the issue here on Oahu is that the properties are rather aged. I mean, there's some beautiful new properties that have come online recently, and those guys are, in my opinion, lucky because they've got their new builds and they're able to incorporate the latest technologies into their properties. But a lot of the properties here have been around since the 60s, 70s, and to retrofit a property, it gets quite costly. But having said that, the properties have looked at whatever's available. It could be a combination of cost and return and rebates and what have you. But lighting is big. Replacement of big equipment like chillers and cooling towers and things like that have been some of the projects that the hotels have undertaken.
So Jim, he's mentioning energy efficiency as a big. So how does Hawaiian Electric get involved in this conversation? What programs are you pulling into the mix to help the hotels here get on top of this?
Sure. So we work really closely with our partners, including a shout out to John Clark, who's the Director of Operations here at Hilton Hawaiian Village. So one of the things that I think the industry's done exceptionally well is hired some great talent. So as we go around to all the different hotels and the tourism spots, they've worked very hard at finding energy expertise. Now in terms of energy efficiency, that program's managed by Hawaii Energy. And we partner with them and we help bring them in where we identify opportunities, including with the hotels, to improve. And I think that's been the biggest improvement over time. I can safely say that the hotels have done a fabulous job of implementing energy efficiency over time. And I think that's a huge investment in time and effort from the expertise that they've deployed. And it's a great example for all the tourists that come to see these fabulous resorts as well.
So actually that's a great point, because when you talk about sustainable tourism is you have to get tourists thinking about this. So is there anything happening on the ground here to really help the visitors understand the problem and how do they get engaged and involved, and does it matter between an international visitor versus a domestic, or from the other states, the other contiguous states? Ernie, yeah, I mean,
I was working for many years with Starwood, and Starwood really is really cognizant and out there with programs to make the guests aware. I mean, some of you stay here at this hotel, they still tell you to leave your towels on the bed or leave it on the shelf, so it doesn't get washed. But there are other programs, and I think Jim mentioned some of it. The company I was with before, and the 4 hotels in Waikiki, 4 major properties, actually in the last 10 years, they have reduced their KW usage by about 28%. And I think that has really helped move us in a more positive direction of sustainability. In addition to that, another program, which is not electricity, but we moved in terms of local products, farm to table, we're buying about 7% 10 years ago, and today they're almost at 60% local products. So that saves bringing things in.
Bringing the fuel.
But most importantly, I think, is the guests who come, they want to eat stuff that's grown here. So I think that's important. It provides green space, which cools the place, but also it's what our visitors and residents really like, is the open space.
So how does that work? I mean, is there a conscious effort on the part of the industry to go out and find the local farmers, the local cattle people, to engage them? How does that work? Is there a planning? The planning conversation this morning was very interesting. There's no plan. Right. Is there a plan developing?
I don't know if there's a specific plan, but I know that different sectors of the local economy have pitched repeatedly, as far as the local businesses. So even on television, you'll see a lot of buy local commercials. Mm-hmm. Restaurants and whether they're freestanding or within hotels, they like to promote local products and as Ernie mentioned, and I think that's just the beginning. Yes, we've made lots of improvement, lots of progress, but there's a lot more work to be done, and we're along the right path on that.
I was surprised when I arrived, and the air conditioning was cranked way up in my room upstairs, and there was no way, other than me manually turning it down, there wasn't any kind of automation happening. So Jim, I'm wondering if there's any, if you see any innovation in that area on the island with, some of the systems that really can help do this without having the visitor to have to think about it. I mean, we want to think that they'll be good citizens, if you will, but frankly, they're here to have fun. They're not going to necessarily think to be the good citizens. So how do we help them not think about it but do it better?
Sure. The great place about Hawaii is it's so global, and the people who work here operate global businesses. Mm-hmm. So a lot of innovation comes from everywhere, and we do get visited by a lot of people who bring these innovations to the islands and demonstrate them. You saw many of them this morning. So if you look around and you'll see, and you just watch for them, there are examples of these innovations almost everywhere, whether it's an automated light switch, conversions to LEDs, and the investment in energy efficiency is got to be the first thing that needs to be done. And I think, again, the hotels have done a great job of that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing what we can do a better job of is making the visitor more aware of energy usage. Blue Planet has these displays that shows the energy use and also where it's coming from the island Oahu. But just imagine if we had those in hotels that metered just what hotel use was, in shopping centers which metered that, so visitors and employees alike can start to understand how energy is being used and how perhaps they can be part of the process in saving energy. Building awareness is something which I think we need to do a better job of.
Right, so the first thing many people do when they hit the airport here is go to the rental car counter and rent a car. So let's talk about transportation for a moment. Because that's another huge part of this problem. So what's being done there? Is there anything effective happening or potentially effective happening on that front?
Well, I think one nice thing that's soon to happen is the centralized rent-a-car center. Right now, I think while you're waiting for your respective bus to go to the rent-a-car center, you'll probably see others going past you, and that's not the one that your car reservation is with. So in the near future, we'll have one bus serving all, and that's going to save energy and congestion and what have you. And the other thing is, one of the rental car companies, I believe 5-6 years ago, introduced electric vehicles. But they've been some challenges there because of a lack of charging stations, and also if they're targeting the business traveler that's here by him or herself, no problem. But if you've got a family of 4 with luggage, it gets a bit tough to get into a Nissan Leaf, and those are some of the challenges.
Jim, we talk about the electric vehicle equation here. What are you seeing on the infrastructure front to help? I mean, there was I think you brought it up on our prep call, Ernie, is if a hotel wants to expand, they actually have to put a certain number of parking spots in place. But so can we see, how much is the policy going to help or hinder what's possible?
Sure, the policy helps a lot, but the technology is moving so fast that electric vehicles are going to play a huge role. And we tend to think of them just as a transportation mechanism, but once you plug them in, they become part of the overall grid. So the technology for the future is interaction, and that becomes a huge resource for the whole system. Now, in transportation down into the tourist areas, going to be really advanced with electric buses, electric fleets, electrification of the whole system. And once we electrify the system, it actually helps bring prices down for everybody, because now we're talking about treating everything as a system rather than just point solutions, optimizing the whole system.
I'd like to go to sidebar for a question in a moment. Just one more thing though. We had an airline up here earlier, and so obviously I'm just curious, like how are the airlines participating with the ground efforts here? Is there any kind of collaboration between the hotels and airlines at this point that it's an opportunity? Or is that an opportunity because it's not happening?
I'm not really aware of any collaboration in terms of ground, but I think, as I look at electric vehicles and perhaps the buying habits of our domestic customers come from California, imagine this, instead of getting a car at the airport, driving it over and paying parking fees and leaving it in the parking lot in the hotel and going to the beach, if you could actually have electric vehicles at the hotel where people could rent them on an hourly basis. That would just eliminate that drive from the airport here and really and truly just become more effective. Hotels would then be able to rent them out and perhaps have various companies, rental car companies, work with hotels to provide those vehicles, much like recently the bike share program. I think bike share is something which should not just be for residents and the business community, but really, I think our visitors will look at bike share. Years from today, when we enter the Chinese market, we better have bikes.
Right. Elaine, love to take a question from the virtual or live audience.
Yes, so getting a few questions, one via Twitter, one via online, and also just, I think generally the main concern is really just that there seems to be a conflict between providing plentiful, luxurious amenities and being conservation oriented. There are also seemingly unnecessary health codes and other industry standards that encourage excessive consumption and waste, especially in food or plastics. You can't reuse your water cups, you can't even recycle them in your rooms. And so are you guys involved in any industry groups that are seeking to change this paradigm?
I think, to answer your question, not directly, but our members are working, whether the individual properties or companies, brands, are working within themselves and their programs to be more energy conscious, more sufficient, self-sufficient. Those conversations come up frequently, and it does come down to, do we provide a luxurious product with the best amenities, which then can be interpreted sometimes as being wasteful and things like that. So it's a constant struggle to balance the two, but I think we've made, as an industry as a whole, we've made great strides, and we just have to continue. We have to continue. We mentioned earlier, what are we doing educating the visitor? I think what we can do more of is educate our teams, because I've been to hotels, not here, but I've been to hotels where they say, hang your towel, so we won't wash it, we'll let you reuse it. So you hang your towel, and next thing you know, you come back to your room, and the towels are brand new. So I think that the staff people can be better trained as well. And I think you train the staff, you train the visitor, and you just kind of move this forward, and year over year we'll get better and better and more efficient.
I think also the hotel brands, the major brands, the Hiltons, the Starwoods, the Marriotts, and all of them, they have a role in this. You know, they set a brand standard that says every room must have bottled water. Well, maybe what they ought to start thinking about is water stations and bottled water. They have a standard that says, can you imagine going to a hotel now that didn't have a bottle of shampoo, but they give you those little tiny ones, and can you imagine how much plastic goes into that? So I think the brands need to start to look at what they're considered brand standards and becoming a little more environmentally sensitive.
Right, right. So looking at this from an opportunity standpoint, I loved your example of the services that maybe a hotel could provide that would differentiate them. So how does a company involved in the tourism industry differentiate itself by being sustainable? I'd love to hear each of your point of views on that. You already gave us the services that they could create that would be different. But what other ways? I mean, oh, come on.
I think for Hawaii, we've got the perfect opportunity. I mean, you said we're not talking about ecotourism, we're talking about the hotel side of things. But partner with ecotourism, the Hawaii Ecotourism Association, what have you, and work on the opportunities. Find a way to get more publicity, get certification. You know, one of the things that, if you go online and you look at green hotels Hawaii, you get very few.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't pop up right away. You got to look at different websites, and different properties are certified in different ways. So we need to simplify this. We need to make it user friendly. I mean, we talk about educating the visitor. Well, we need to make it user friendly for them so that they. Anyway, I know I'm deviating, but we have opportunity here, and I think. And then once we identify the opportunity, then we got to make sure it makes sense. Business model wise, it's got to be, we're in the business to make money, we got to make money.
Right.
But I think there are ways to do it. It's not an easy thing to do, but if we work hard enough at it and it's a worthy effort, worthy cause, we can get it done.
I think we all have to be willing to try new things to jumpstart new innovations. And I'll give you one example. It goes back to the airport question. There's a charging station out near the airport that is not connected. It's a battery-based system. So you don't have to invest in the new infrastructure there. You can try it out, and when you deploy it that way, you have more options. Maybe it's not in the right place, you move it over to another place. But the great thing is those batteries are second life batteries. It's come from somewhere else. So we also have to be really aware here in Hawaii when we bring things in, what we're going to do with those things over the long term. We have to think about the life cycle opportunity costs for the things we bring here.
Right, right. Well, I appreciate you laying the groundwork for the discussion this afternoon. I'm jealous. I can't actually participate in the summit, but looking forward to the takeouts from that, and thinking that this isn't a way and a place where this industry can really start to make some differences. And I appreciate you all getting us thinking this morning, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.